Hey everyone, and welcome to the Defining Your Life podcast, where we focus on living in our purpose, practicing presence, and activating our power in each moment. I'm Marsha Rell, your resident pep talk provider, and I invite you to join me as we continue to learn, lift each other up, and strive to level up together. Because we are never finished defining our lives, and it takes a village, so let's build one. Stay tuned for the episode. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming back to spend time with us on the pod today. I have another rapid fire feature guest joining us today, Melody Wright, who is owner and principal consultant of Say Do Strategies, joins us today. She's going to give us a little bit of her story and entrepreneurship and working in the corporate world in a very specialized industry, and also how to take care of yourself in these spaces. So welcome, Melody.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, this is rapid fire feature, so I'm going to hop right in. Describe yourself in 30 seconds or less.
I would say I'm a wife, a mom, a writer, a creator, and a business owner. I'm originally from Prince George's County, Maryland, but I've lived in Philly for more than 20 years now.
So Philly is home.
It's home, definitely.
Awesome. Well, can you tell us a bit about your business and the clients that you service? I know it's not a mainstream group of folks, so
Sure.
I'd like to hear a bit about that.
Sure. So, Say Do is Philadelphia-based, and we offer services in strategic communications, government relations, and stakeholder engagement. Our primary kinds of clients are engineering firms, utility entities that are in transit, so like SEPTA, for example, transportation, which has to do with highways, so like PennDOT, for example, and also aviation. So we have clients who manufacture helicopters or other aircraft.
Awesome. And can you tell us a bit about the aha moment that made you say it's time to step away from your previous career and sort of pursue your own thing? So they're aligned, but they're slightly different. I'd like to hear a bit about that.
Sure, they are slightly different. I spent about 10 years at Philadelphia's water department, where I led the government affairs executive leadership. And I learned so much about water. I did not know that it was so cool and so interesting. Learning about water treatment, being able to see the size and scale of treatment plants and understand how that impacts the rivers and watersheds and estuaries near where we live, all gave me a really strong foundation in water and wastewater utilities operation. So the reason I had the aha moment, if you will, is I learned so much from water and I was ready to take that to the next step. So there was a promotion I was up for, but it just didn't work out the way that I wanted. It got kind of weird after that. And so I had already been planning to leave the water department to start this business, but it just made me start it a little bit sooner.
Yeah.
What gave me the push was this all happened in 2020, March, during the pandemic. And so I said to myself, gosh, based on what you hear on the news, it sounds like my next trip to Target might cause me to die. Right? The way they made it sound. And so I said, I guess I got to do this now.
Yeah. Listen, it's nothing like being pushed to take a leap.
Right.
Well, making that transition into entrepreneurship and sort of starting from the ground up, can you talk to us about the types of challenges that you had to face and how you were able to push through those, especially, in the very beginning where that can be scary?
Sure. I guess the biggest challenge was I had no clients when I started. And I think a big part of that is with this sort of new direction I was going in, I had a strong and a large network, but this network wasn't exactly aligned with what I was starting to do now. Right? So that's really how I pushed through is I worked a lot on networking in the right spaces. My previous network of contacts really focused on local government and the contacts that I needed needed to be in those spaces that we work in now, in engineering, in transportation, in transit, in aviation. And so I would do things like there are these things called pre-bid meetings. So before a big project gets put out and a city or a state picks who they would like to do the project, they have these pre-bid meetings to answer people's questions about the project, to give them more information, etc. I would make sure I got a copy of the sign-in sheet
Mm-hmm.
from the pre-bid meeting, and that gave me names, numbers, and emails for people who work at places that I would want to be my client.
Yeah, yeah. And how did you shake off the scaries of like, all right, let me get out here and reach out to these people, essentially cold calling, right? Because, you're specialized and it's not necessarily business development, but that's a hat you have to wear.
Absolutely, it's a hat you have to wear. You know what? I didn't really have any fears to shake off because I was like, I've got to do this.
Mm,
I have no clients. So let's go. Let's go at this hard.
mm,
And I knew in my heart and in the back of my mind, I will always have this mantra that said, if you work, this will work. And so
mm,
kept working on, figuring out how to get clients. I talked to people that I already knew to let them know I had changed directions in my career so that
mm-hmm.
they could keep me in mind. I talked to new people, like you said, with the cold calls. I would just reach out by email and tell them a little bit about my background and that I wanted to work with them. And that worked pretty well.
Yeah. If you work, this will work. I'm using that. So that's definitely a good motivator to keep you going. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you feel like you're putting this energy in for nothing. But of course, you had a purpose, right? You needed to get some
Right.
clients because we need some coins,
We need.
and this is how you got to do it. And you keep working it, it's going to work. Well, how would you say being a double minority in this very niche space uh that isn't very diverse at all, right? How does that impact not only just your daily experience professionally, but also personally?
It can be a challenge when you're the only person in the room that looks like you. But I do think it also becomes a chance to change some of the small minded people that are in that room
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
by taking every opportunity you can to demonstrate Black excellence.
Yes.
Um, and for me, and the team, I do that to begin with by making sure we all always follow what I call the three Ps.
Okay.
I always tell people no one can ever stop you from being professional. No one can ever keep you from being punctual, and no one can ever keep you from being personable or like you bring
Mhm.
those into the room, you've already got people's ears.
Yes. Yes. I'ma steal that too. Mhm. The 3
And
Ps.
when
The
you're
3
likable,
Ps.
the three Ps. And when you're likable, people find ways to work with you.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's gold right there. Well, how important would you say it is to prioritize your self care on the entrepreneurship journey?
It's imperative. It's the number one thing on the list. Like, if you put off self care, you might literally put yourself out of business,
Mm,
right? When you get burnt out, you can't function. It's
yeah.
critical to keep yourself going. And I think what that looks like is delaying work or delegating work or making sure you take a day or two off once in a while. And I think the big one is if people took away nothing else from me today, I would say turn down work that does not feel right or meaningful to your business.
Mm, mm,
Don't chase money because it will change the trajectory of your business into something that you can't even recognize.
mm.
If you're going with where the money is coming instead of where the appropriate work is coming,
Yes.
and next thing you know, you're doing a bunch of stuff you don't like doing. And if that's the case, you might as well have stayed at work.
Yes. Yes. That is so true. I hate this job. I'm going to go off and do my own thing. Then you're trying to find a check. And the next thing you know, you're doing the same work that you hated.
Same thing. Yeah.
Wow, that is so true. Well, I would like you to talk a bit more about like actually doing the prioritization, right? Because we often talk about, making the time. Like, what are some strategies that you use for making sure you schedule those days off, or, pencil in time to take your lunch? Like, just as simple as that.
I literally put those things on the calendar. I put my time at the gym in the morning on the calendar. I put days off on the calendar, even though I may not have anything to do, just to remind myself, well, go find something to do today besides work. I think I also would count talking to people in your network on a more personal level. I
Mm,
think that lets off a lot of steam too. And what it also does is really deepen your relationship with your network or your clients because you have that chance to be a little vulnerable and be authentic with them. And people really appreciate that. And it brings something out of them too, which for me, it makes me feel less anxious going into the room with them when I know we've made that deep connection.
yeah, yeah, for sure. The power of relationship, right? Outside of just like that work that's in front of you makes all the difference.
Yeah.
So, what's some advice then? And you kind of touched on this, but like for those women or just people in general that are aching to sort of transition into entrepreneurship, they're at their desk right now thinking, "I want to be doing my own thing," this time next year. What can you share with them?
I think you can take little steps. I think the big thing first is to figure out what your purpose is. What's the thing that gets you up in the morning and ready to go and check off your checklist for the day? If you can identify that, you can probably begin to identify what kind of work you would want to do for your business. But if you don't understand your purpose, for right now, that is your purpose to
Hmm.
figure out what your purpose is.
Yeah.
Um, a small place to start is at work, right where you are. What sort of projects can you start there? What problems might you be able to solve there?
Hmm.
Um, and even taking those steps at work will kind of help you figure out what you like to do, but more importantly, what you're good at.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting because, oftentimes we're in these spaces and we're so fixated on getting out that we forget to still show up from a place of excellence while we're there because we're
That's right.
plotting our exit strategy.
Yeah.
And sometimes, it gets uncomfortable. I can even speak for myself where, even I would say as much as this time last year, I was very burned out and I was like, I
Yeah.
can't keep I need to go. I am unhappy, right? But also, maybe that's a time to challenge yourself with self reflection to figure out what you could be doing differently and what you can be getting out of the situation while you're in it,
Yeah.
right? Because that's
Yeah.
still on your resume. You still need a resume as an entrepreneur. You
Absolutely.
know?
People ask for it all the time, for sure.
Yeah.
Because they have to have some basis to vet you and see, because they're taking a risk, especially with a new business and or a small business. They're taking a risk by bringing you on to do these important things for their business, strategic plans or workforce development or customer service improvements. They're making a big investment and also taking a big risk on you. So, yeah, the resume, sometimes people want references.
Hmm.
It really is like, at least in my kind of work, which is called professional services, like that's the category I'm in, is like interviewing for jobs all the time.
Hmm.
I have job interviews all the time.
Yes. Every client. Yep.
Every
Yep.
client.
And
Yep.
even maybe your client's client, right?
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Oh, well, thank you so much, Mel, for joining us today. I know it was short and sweet. That's what we like to do around here. And tell the people where they can find out more about you and your work. And even outside of that, how they could, stay up to speed on what you're doing.
Sure. On LinkedIn, you can look for Melody Wright or say Do Strategies. And our website is www.saydostrategies.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much again. I really appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
I loved it.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening today. I'll leave you with a quote by Marva Collins who says, "Success doesn't come to you. You go to it." So go to your success, y'all. And remember that if you work, it will work. And if what you have been hearing has been beneficial, don't forget to rate, review, and share the pod. I can't wait to chat with you all again next week. Take care until then.